All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. If you're joining me right now, it's probably because you're the kind of focused learner who wants to cut straight to the heart of how things actually work. And honestly, we've got a really fascinating topic today that is going to completely change how you view global water systems. Over the next few minutes, we're going to build a really wholesome, complete understanding of what is, frankly, a massive global issue. We're moving way past those simple, catchy headlines to look at the living, breathing system behind water crises. So get ready, because by the end of this, you're going to see the world's most vital resource in a totally new light. So I want you to take a quick second and just ask yourself, what actually makes a water crisis? Seriously, picture it in your mind right now. If you're like, well, almost everyone else, you probably instantly visualize these cracked, dry landscapes, totally empty wells, and just this massive, severe scarcity of water, right? We are basically conditioned from day one to think that a water crisis automatically equals a water shortage. But what if I told you that's really only half the story? And actually, it's often the less dangerous half. So here is the absolutely crucial point we need to hit. A water crisis is not only about scarcity. The real, much deeper issue we have to look at is whether water is available, safe, and reliably protected. Think about it. You could have a village, a town, or even a massive city sitting right next to a rushing river with taps that run all day long and still be right in the middle of a deadly water crisis. An abundant supply of water can still be incredibly dangerous if we misunderstand what actually makes it safe. Clean water isn't just some nice convenience, it's an entire complex health system. The thing is, our own intuition really fails us here, because clarity is definitely not the same as safety. Just imagine a perfectly still glass of water sitting on a table literally right in front of you. It looks perfectly clear, it doesn't smell weird, it seems totally fine to drink, right? We are biologically hardwired to judge water by how it looks. But the greatest danger in water is usually exactly the stuff you cannot see. Just because it looks crystal clear, well, that definitely doesn't mean it isn't carrying some serious microscopic threats. To really grasp this, we need to completely reframe what water actually does. Water isn't just this static, resting liquid. Water is a carrier. It picks things up as it moves. Our source material has this brilliant analogy that I just love. Imagine you wash a perfectly clean cloth, right? But then you hang it up to dry in a super dusty room. The cloth started out perfectly clean, but simply by existing in that environment, it gets dirty. Water works the exact same way. It flows through soil, through rusty pipes, into buckets, and over hands. Perfectly clean water can become instantly dangerous simply by moving through a dirty environment. Now, we can actually categorize these invisible passengers into three main groups. First up, we've got germs. These are basically the living, invisible stowaways on the bus. You don't actually see them boarding, but they arrive at the destination and cause severe illnesses like diarrhea. Second, we have chemicals. These are those dissolved, slow-moving threats that might not change the taste or the look of the water at all, but they really harm the body over time. And third, physical dirt, stuff like mud or waste. Now, the dirt itself might not be the main killer here, but it acts kind of like a crack in a wall. It's this big, visible warning sign flashing that the whole system is vulnerable and open to contamination. To really hammer this concept home, think of contaminated water exactly like a corrupted digital file. I mean, this is something we can all relate to, right? A file might look totally fine sitting there on your computer desktop. The icon looks normal, the file size seems completely right, but it's only when you actually double-click to open it that you realize the hidden structure inside is entirely damaged and corrupt. Well, water can be the exact same way. Our human senses are just highly unreliable for detecting this kind of hidden damage. We literally cannot rely on that gut instinct of assuming it looks fine. So this brings us to a timeline, and honestly, this is absolutely essential for understanding the whole picture. Let's walk through the chronological journey of just a single drop of water. It all starts at the source. Then it moves through transport. It sits around in storage, and finally it reaches use. We call this the chain of protection. See, water safety is not just some single starting point where we check a box at the well and say, cool, we're done here. It is a continuous living condition that has to be actively maintained across every single step of this entire journey. And here's exactly how that chain fails. Because you know the saying, a chain is literally only as strong as its weakest link. You might have a beautifully clean source, but if there's a leaking transport pipe letting in some outside groundwater, boom, the chain breaks. If you have clean pipes but pour that water into an uncovered storage drum, the chain breaks again. It's like spending hours preparing this beautiful, healthy, amazing bowl of food, only to leave it completely uncovered on the kitchen table for flies and dust to just settle all over it.
Having protection at one stage absolutely does not guarantee safety at the next. A dirty hand or a shared cup at the very last possible second can undo the entire system.
Which actually brings us to a really massive misconception in public health. There is a huge, huge difference between treating water and protecting water. Making water safe initially is not the same as keeping it safe. Treating water at some big facility is entirely useless if recontamination just happens later on at the household level. People often ask, well, we treated the water, so why did people still get sick? And the answer is almost always that the water was treated, sure, but it wasn't protected afterwards. So how do we actually fix this? Well, we use this really practical 3-part safety framework: remove, kill, protect. And I love the way our source explains this. It's exactly like preparing a room for house guests. First, you remove. You go in and sweep out all the visible dust and dirt. Next, you kill. You sanitize and destroy the hidden germs so they can't cause any harm. But the absolutely most important part is that third step: protect. You have to close the windows to block new dust from blowing in, and you got to keep the room tidy until the guests actually arrive. Because if you sweep once but leave the front door wide open, that room is definitely not going to stay clean. For any of this to truly work at a large scale and to actually gain public trust, it has to meet 3 pretty strict criteria. A strong safety system matches the specific risk. Like, you don't just filter out mud if invisible chemicals are the actual problem, right? Next, it rigorously protects against recontamination. And crucially, it has to be reliable over time. Think of a safe water system kind of like a bridge that you have to cross every single day to get to work. It's not enough for that bridge to be strong just once or, only on sunny days. It must be continually, consistently strong, or else people are going to lose trust and start taking dangerous alternatives. And that brings us to our final takeaway today, and it is a really powerful paradigm shift. The very next time you hear about a water crisis on the news, or you're looking at a water system, I want you to make sure you don't just stop at the word scarcity. Instead of just asking, hey, is there water here? I want you to ask, what touched it? Where did it come from? How was it stored? Was it protected right up until the moment it was drank? By asking these exact questions, you're now diagnosing water issues just like a real public health expert. You're no longer just looking at a single drop. You are seeing the entire living chain. Keep that question in the back of your mind, and I promise you will never look at a simple glass of water the same way again.